Sym-Pathetic Jury. Gypsy Rose has stated that there is no accessory to murder charge in the state of Missouri. However, there is Title 38 Crimes and Punishment, Peace Officers and Public Offenders Revision January 1, 2017 for the state of Missouri 565.032 evidence to be considered in assessing punishment in first-degree murder cases for which death penalty authorized. The offender caused or directed another to commit murder in the first degree or committed murder in the first degree as an agent or employee of another person. This fits Gypsy Rose Blanchard's description even though she says there is no accessory to murder in Missouri. A. Gypsy Rose Blanchard supplied the knife, the money for Nicholas Godejohn to travel to her house and stay at a motel nearby. B. Gypsy Rose Blanchard told Nicholas Godejohn no several times when he said he wanted to just run away with her and not kill D.D. Blanchard. C. Gypsy Rose Blanchard made a video showing Nicholas Godejohn where the bedroom was and which side of the bed her mom would sleep on, and even did stabbing motions with her left arm. D. Gypsy Rose Blanchard looked up different ways to kill someone on the internet and planned the murder with Nicholas Godejohn for a year or two. E. Gypsy Rose Blanchard had an envelope ready to mail the weapon to Nicholas's address in Wisconsin. F. Gypsy Rose Blanchard supplied the gloves and the weapon used. G. Gypsy Rose Blanchard happily went with Nicholas Godejohn to the days in hotel room and never was upset about her mother's death. From the FOIA requests pages 31 and 32. The video of Mr. Godejohn's detention shows that during the 15 hours that Nicholas was held, handcuffed, in that small interview room, his emotional condition was compromised. During much of this time he exhibited worry and concern about Gypsy's well-being, repeatedly asking officers about her condition. He made multiple inquiries to law enforcement as to whether he would be allowed to physically hold Gypsy, and the officers held that possibility open. Nicholas indicates that he is loopy from being awake for such a lengthy period of time. The environment he was kept in was both distressing and inadequate. While Gypsy was provided a couch to sleep on during the lengthy wait for Greene County officers to arrive in Wisconsin, Nicholas had to sit at a table the entire time. He was not given a blanket to shield himself from the cold after being held in the interview room for at least 7 hours with bare feet, shorts, and a short-sleeved shirt. He was bound with handcuffs for 12 hours and 53 minutes before the interrogation began. From the FOIA requests pages 37 and 38. In this case, the volume of extremely prejudicial pretrial publicity was so great that the presumption of prejudice among potential jurors required a change of venue from Greene County. Nicholas Godejohn was charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action for events occurring in Springfield, Greene County, Missouri in June of 2015. The pre-trial publicity surrounding Mr. Godejohn's case was extremely intense. Pre-trial public scrutiny and fascination was high due to the unusual underlying facts of the case, including an aspect of Munchausen by proxy syndrome perpetrated by the victim in the case. Mr. Godejohn's co-defendant, Gypsy Blanchard, pled guilty to second-degree murder on July 5, 2016. Her court proceedings were broadcast on television and made available on demand and online. Co-defendant gave television interviews to Dr. Phil in 2020 that aired over a 3-day period prior to Nicholas' trial. Multiple videos regarding the case were available on YouTube through ABC News, Law and Crime Network, Dr. Phil and others. In addition, HBO aired an hour-and-a-half special on May 16, 2017 titled Mommy Dead and Dearest, which contained extremely prejudicial content including information on Nicholas' prior arrest record, actual footage of court proceedings and discovery from the underlying case including Nicholas' interview with law enforcement. On November 6, 2018, just 2 days before jury selection began, Investigation Discovery aired an hour-and-a-half special titled Gypsy's Revenge, which also referenced extremely prejudicial information about Nicholas, including an allegation that Nicholas had a criminal past. The show aired a segment from a KY3 broadcast which revealed Nicholas was arrested in 2013 after investigators say he was watching Korn and Blank himself in a McDonald's restaurant for 9 hours. It went on to allege that police found a large knife on his person during the arrest. Page 41. On November 8, 2018, approximately 80 venere persons were called for potential service. The trial court asked the panel if they had heard from any source or read from any source, or had seen on television or the internet anything about this case, this trial, or about Mr. Godejohn prior to this morning. So many potential jurors raised their hands, the trial court reversed the question and asked how many had not heard anything about the case. Only 13 venere persons responded, meaning 67 out of 80, or approximately 84% of venere persons had heard about the case. The trial court then inquired of the 67 who had heard about the case, how many had formed an opinion as to Mr. Godejohn's guilt or innocence, to which 19, or roughly a third, responded affirmatively. Despite these astonishing numbers, trial counsel failed to quash the entire panel and requested change of venue for cause. Page 52. Movement's rights to due process and a fair trial were violated due to juror access to prejudicial publicity pre-trial and during trial. Nicholas Godejohn was denied effective assistance of counsel, a fair trial, due process, and was subjected to cruel and unusual punishment in violation of his rights under the 5th, 6th, 8th and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution and Article 1, Sections 10, 18A and 21 of the Missouri Constitution due to juror access to prejudicial publicity pre-trial and during trial. The volume of prejudicial pre-trial publicity was overwhelming. No meaningful inquiry of the venere panel into bias due to prejudicial media exposure was conducted. The court misled the jury by instructing they would hear more about the case than they did from the media if they served on the jury. The trial proceedings were live-streamed. There was no sequestration of the jury and no individual voir dire of the jury before trial resumed each day. As a result, Nicholas Godejohn was deprived of the ability to pick a jury free from bias and was deprived of a fair trial and due process. Page 69. Nicholas Godejohn was denied effective assistance of counsel, a fair trial, due process, and was subjected to cruel and unusual punishment in violation of his rights. His trial counsel unreasonable and prejudicially failed to make a timely and contemporaneous objections to the state's pretrial mental health evaluation of Mr. Godejohn. Page 77 states, Nicholas Godejohn's rights to due process were violated when he was denied access to data contained on a camera and memory card from a camera introduced in evidence at trial. From what we read from the court records, we could see the jury was swayed to believe from the media that Gypsy was innocent and Nicholas was guilty. Also, the charges he faced in April of 2013 may have also been related to Gypsy. Remember, they met online in October 2012. The FOIA requests also mention Gypsy made over 100 Korn videos. So what Korn-related videos was Nicholas watching while he was in McDonald's? It very well could have been Gypsy's. Did she set him up? Although the record does not quote individual jurors by name, it establishes that several had viewed the documentary and other specials, e.g., ABC 2020, Dr. Phil, ID's Gypsy's Revenge, before deliberating. That is precisely the scenario you described. Why sympathy for Gypsy could legally matter. Capital sentencing aggravators can be blunted by sympathy. Missouri's Section 565.032 aggravated 2-6, caused or directed another to commit murder, could have applied to Gypsy, but the narrative in Mommy Dead and Dearest painted her as a survivor, making a death penalty or the life without the possibility of parole verdict against her politically and jurorly unlikely. Impartial jury requirement. The U.S. Supreme Court allows conviction to stand even in high-profile cases if jurors swear they can set aside prior impressions. But failure of counsel to probe obvious media bias can support an ineffective assistance claim. Those are the very grounds Godejohn raised in his bid for a new trial. Change of venue precedent. In Missouri, judges routinely move trials when pretrial publicity is pervasive. Mead admitted he considered but never filed such a motion. Bottom line for your argument. Yes, court exhibits and testimony confirm that multiple seated jurors had already watched Mommy Dead and Dearest and related programs, and many had formed opinions favoring Gypsy before a single exhibit was shown in court. The documentary's sympathetic tilt bolstered the state's portrayal of Gypsy as an abused child while leaving Godejohn as the sole focus of juror outrage. Godejohn's post-conviction team now argues that trial counsel's failure to challenge those jurors, or to move the proceeding out of Springfield, deprived him of an impartial jury, a potential Sixth Amendment violation. So tell me what you think in the comments. Did Nicholas receive a fair trial? Or was the jury swayed in their opinions by the media circus that was all showing Gypsy as a survivor and not a criminal? Should Gypsy have gotten the life sentence without parole as well as Nicholas? Or maybe Gypsy served life while Nicholas only serves 10 years in prison since his part was so small in this crime? What do you think? Please like, share and subscribe. I appreciate you all.